How to build a professional looking 3D portfolio with the React Free Fiber Part 5. Hi, will it ever end? You were a lot to ask for a responsive chapter. And you've been heard, here it is. But we'll also add a loading screen, connect the contact form, and also do some minor adjustments to make it better. Just before jumping to the tutorial, a quick reminder that I enabled YouTube memberships to the channel for everyone who wants to support my work and get some additional perks. That would mean a lot to me. If you're interested, click on the join button to discover it in details. That being said, let's really finish our 3D portfolio. So far, this is what we have. It looks good on desktop, but on mobile, it's not the best experience we can have. Let's preview on mobile what it looks like. First, open your browser developer tools, and that button, open the responsive menu. You can select custom dimensions like this, and you select the height and width manually, or you can use common devices to have the exact values of some devices. Yes, currently it's not very responsive. Some screens are okay, like skills are okay-ish, not perfect. Projects is almost good, but you can see the character here, and contact me is quite nice. Let's start by just setting the responsive of the HTML part. Open interface, and from here with Tailwind we will be able to do some adjustments to make it look better. We will want to make that first section stick to the top and to leave space on the bottom for the office. Because our section is generic for all sections, we will add a prop named mobile top, and on the about section, where we define the section here, we will add the prop mobile top, because it's the only one we want to stick to the top. Now what we do here, if it's mobile top, we will have justify center by default. It's what we had. So we remove it from here. So when it's not mobile top, we will keep justify center. But here we want on mobile to be justify start, to be on the top, and for bigger devices to be on justify center. So on bigger devices, we set MD. So only when it reaches that dimension, it will be justify center. And for the rest, by default, it will be justify start. With Tailwind, it's that way. You specify the global dimension, so starting from mobile, and then for bigger devices, you say, starting at that breakpoint, we apply those classes. Now what we have here, the section is on top, while the others are the same. And if we get bigger, it's as it was. One thing we can fix quickly is the font size of the titles. It's too big compared to the dimension of the screen. Currently, our big texts are text 6XL. We can do, by default, it will be 4. And starting from MD, it will be 6. It's only the first title that is that big. Maybe the other ones are not as big. It's 5XL. For the 5XL, by default, we will say 3 and 5. Now we can search for 5. There are 4 titles like this, and we replace it with this. Here, here, here. Okay. By the way, if it's a project you want to show some recruiter, maybe create a component named title with props and stuff you need, and reuse that component instead of doing replace like I'm doing currently. Here it's better, but maybe we can fix some spaces because the button is too spaced, and maybe we can add some space on top, only on mobile. Let's add some margin top here, but not on bigger device. So set it to 0. And the button is too big because 16 is heavy. We will keep it only for MD, and the global we will put MT4. It looks better, but we still have the office fighting. We will fix it later, and we will remove some space here for the menu button. Let's jump to the menu. Here it's top 12, right 12. We will keep it for bigger device, but let's take top 4, right 4. while we are in the menu, we want it to be full screen. So what we can do is with full and with 80 only when we are in bigger devices. Now it's better, it's more on the top right. If we open it's full screen, so on mobile it looks nice. If we are on desktop devices, it's the correct size. Okay, now let's fix the skills, even if there's not a lot of things to do because it quite looks nice. Maybe we will try to make it full width. And the titles, we already make it smaller. And we will reduce a bit the font size here. Let's jump to the skills sections interface again. Skills, it's here. We have text XL. We will keep it for bigger device, but we will switch to text LG to be a bit smaller, but still big. We have the same text component here. Text large and extra large. To make it full width, what we need to do is to add a class name with full. And here it was with 64. We will keep it for bigger devices. And here it will be with full. Whereas the other one here with full, MD with 64. Now it's better, it's full width. The text is a bit smaller, but still the avatar here is breaking the readability. So we will change the 3D part later. Then let's look projects. It's already good. We won't change the HTML part. And contact me. Maybe we will just make it slightly transparent so the avatar behind will be visible. But we will do it for desktop and mobile. Contact section is here. The container white is here. What we can do is background opacity 50. It's not very different, but at least it doesn't truncate the body of the avatar. Maybe we will fine-tune the position to look more integrated. Let's do a small fix. Here you can see we have the dot. Where we click, we have the dot, but it's not meant for this. Also, if you reload the page, you can see the bubble on the top left. Even if it's not a lot visible, it still exists. To fix it, it's quite simple. Go to cursor, and instead of putting the default position in screen, like at 0, we can put -10 and -10. Now when we will load, it will be out of screen and we won't see it. Let's jump to the renderer and we will hide it on mobile. We add invisible, and when it reaches the MD breakpoint, it will be visible. Now when we reload, we don't see the circle, but if we move, it slides to my position. It's nice. If I switch to mobile, I can click everywhere, and I don't have that circle. Nice. Before jumping to the 3D responsive, I'd like to make some fixes. Here, I forgot to add the wireframe mode on our avatar. Let's add it. Go to Experience, find the avatar. We set wireframe if section equals to 1. Yes, it should be it, the skills. And in avatar, we had it from Leva use controls. It was wireframe. We can remove it and get wireframe from the props. Let's look. If we go to skills, we are in wireframe. If we scroll down to projects, we can see our character is normal. I also had one comment about the animation because it's a bit too bouncy, so we will fix it. Where we can really see it, it's here, it's very bouncy, we will adjust it. And we will also fix here the fade color because it should be a duration and not a spring animation. To fix the animation config, go to config. We have spring, mass, stiffness, damping. We can just increase a bit the damping. This is what I tried and had a better result with. And to fix the animation of the opacity of the texture, we go to Office. Instead of changing like the animate, we can add another parameter, duration, and set 0.8. We do it on both texture because it's the same. We could have made a variable configuration, but we only have two and they are next to each other. So it's fine. Now, if we reload, we can see the animation smoothing better than before. And the effect is a bit less bouncy and more natural. Now the moment you all waited for is responsive for 3D. There are different techniques that we can follow and different variables we can adjust to make the 3D experience look good. I will use some techniques on this project, but maybe on another project you might need to do something else. There's no one good true answer. First, there is that variable we can use. It's viewport. We already used it for some stuff, but let's see what it really does. Console log viewport.width and viewport.height. Okay, we had 14.2 and 8 as width and height, and when I open the console, I have 10.54 and 8. So the size diminished on width and not on height, and it defines what our camera is able to see. By using those values, we can calculate responsive positions and responsive scales. If I go to app and I change the field of view, let's say I put 82. Now, because the field of view is way wider, look at the values we have 23 and 18. So we have more space to display 3D items. So this is the first thing we can use to manage different size of screens. Let's set back our FOV to 42. Another technique we will use is just check if we are on mobile. We name a variable is mobile. If the window.inner width is below one breakpoint you define, then you are in mobile. And based on this, you can do very specific things. Okay, so let's start implementing those concepts. We will create something named responsive ratio. I know for me the perfect size is a viewport of 12. I designed the application to be with that viewport width. So it will be viewport.width divided by 12. Because if it's bigger than 12, it will scale up this ratio. It will be above 1. And if it's less, then it will diminish it. Let's start by the office. We go and find it. It's this group containing the office. Here, the position of the office, we want something very different on mobile. We want it to be on the bottom. We don't want to slightly adjust it. So we will use our condition is mobile. The X, if we are on mobile, it's 0. Otherwise, it's what we already had. On the Y-axis, if it's mobile, I want it to be on the bottom of the screen. But I want it to work on all resolution. So here we will use the viewport.height. So viewport.height minus, because we want it to be on the bottom of the screen, and we will divide it by 6. Why 6? Because I tried and it works fine. And because we are using viewport.height, we know it will be responsive. The Z position can stay untouched. So far what it does, here it doesn't change anything. If we resize, it's still bad because it's too big. We need to change the scale. For the scale, we can just multiply by the responsive ratio. So it will get bigger or smaller. Now it's very interesting what will happen is if we resize down, you can see we always see the palm tree because it's getting smaller and smaller. And when it reaches a certain point, it will be very small, and maybe we want to limit it. Same applies if we are on too big screen, we want not to be too big. By the way, to be always sure it's fine on bigger device, we also need to multiply by a responsive ratio. The office is too high because we have that animation here that is pushing it to the top. We can just change it to, is it mobile? We keep our position we target, or we set to 0. Now it's better, but it's too small. Let's adjust the responsive ratio. Based on that responsive ratio, we will calculate an office scale ratio. We know we had 0.9 that we multiplied by the responsive ratio, and we have good results. But we want to limit it to be too big or limit it to be too small. Then to limit the maximum, we will do it here. So we use math.min. So it's either this one or 0.9. So we will never go over 0.9 for the office scale. I separate the office scale to responsive ratio because maybe on some other items we want another limit for the bigger and the smaller. Let's go to the office. Here, now we can use our variable, office scale ratio. And same here. Now we really have the palm tree always visible because we fix the X position. And when it's on mobile, look, it places correctly and it's never too small. We always see at least that dimension of the office. As you noticed, we have a problem because the character is typing in the air. Let's fix it. First thing, we have the scale X to 0.9 on the office, which is the office one. So we can use office scale ratio. The size of the character will follow on that section. We also can define the default value, so it won't animate from big to small. So office scale ratio for all axes. Here we hard-coded the position of the character. It worked because we had only one position, it never moved, but now it's not the case anymore, so we need to remove it. And we will add a reference to our character container. We will name it character group. Now over the use frame, we will declare our character group equal useref. So now we have access to it. And remember, we had that code that helps us position the character. We were logging it and it's what we used, but we won't need it because we don't want to instantiate a vector every time. And this, what we can do is copy the current word position of the real spot to our character group dot current dot position. So it will apply to the other group, but we want to do it only if the section is 0. Because for the other parts, we want the default position we set. Now, if we scale down or up, we can see the character scales up or down. And on mobile, it's positioned correctly. It's nice. If we change section, we have an issue with the scale. So we need to define the scale for other sections now. We need to go to the character group. It's here. Before, we didn't have a default scale. So on the other section, we could not set it, but now we need to set it to 1 if we want to keep 1. Scale Y and Z. Thank you, Copilot. On the 2, is it the same for all? I think so. Let's copy, paste. Nice. Now the size is correct. On this section, we can also move the mesh distorted here to be behind the window as in desktop, but it's up to you if you want to keep it like this. This is that group on the skills that we put down on when we scroll. So is mobile, we would say minus viewport.height or minus wide 0.5 and maybe multiply by the office scale ratio. And if section is equal to 1, we will keep that previous value. But here, if it is mobile, we will also use minus viewport.8 or minus 1.5 multiplied by office scale ratio. Now it is below, it doesn't fight with the text, and it's correctly positioned here. On desktop, what do we have? Perfect. On desktop, the avatar here looks good because it has space for the skills. But on mobile, it's a bit fighting with the text. So let's rotate it and put it on the right. Go to the character group. It must be here. And the section we target is the first one. If it is mobile, we set to 0.3 or 0. The scale, we can make it bigger on mobile, 1.5. And do it for the other as well. Rotate it on the y-axis is mobile minus math.py on 2 or 0. Now it's not fighting with the text anymore and we have a nice effect. For the project, our character is lost on the left. We just need to adjust it. So it's the second section is mobile. We will set -1.4 or -2. And here is an example that sometimes responsive is very easy. Let's look at what we have. Now the position is correct, and on very big screen size, it will always be like this. So you don't need to be too fancy sometimes. For the contact, we will just adjust the position of the character. X to 24. And it's fine. Do we need to change it back on desktop? No, so we can keep it and not add conditions. Are we good on the responsive? If we look, we have the menu. We can scroll down. Skills are nice. Portfolio is nice. We can see all projects. We don't need to scale it down, or we wouldn't be able to read here. And contact is fine too. Now let's add a simple loading screen to enhance the experience when users land on your website. Let's go to app. Let's create a component we will call loading screen. And let's create it. Components, new file, loading screen.jsx, export const. Loading screen will return a div and import it correctly. Okay, now let's code our loading screen. Here is what I prepared. We have that white background, blue background, and we have the text set twice. We have a first time the text a bit light, and when the progression will increase, we have the same text over it that will expand to show the progression. I already prepared the CSS and we will work on the logic. We will use a hook named useProgress from Drei, and from it we can get many information about the loading progression. We can have the progression is in percent, the total number of items to load, the number of items loaded, and the current item loading. For the moment, what we will do is just do a use effect that will be called when any variable change here. The total loaded item, and we will log everything. The progress, total loaded, and item. If we look at the console, we have first it detects only one item to load, then 4 items, then the percentage increase, and it detects a lot of other items, and then 31 items in total, and 100% of progression. Let's try to implement it with only the progression for now. In the experience, we will get track of if it's loaded or not. So did we start the experience on started equal use state? It's false by default. And our loading screen is able to change on started and is also aware of its started. Okay, in our loading screen, if we go inside, if progress equal 100, then it's loaded. So we can do set loaded equal true. And we need to get it from the props. Started, set started equal, we get it from the props here. And I misnamed it, it's set started. Here should be set started. Okay, now on our loading screen, when it started, here we will want to make our menu disappear. So is started. If it's the case, we remove the opacity. If not, we keep the opacity. Now, if we reload, it acts fine, but we need to add the progression on the name here. We have the percentage available in progress. So in the width of that title, we can say progress. If we reload, it's fine, but it's way too fast. To visualize a loader, we need to go to network. And here we can add network throttling, fast 3G. Okay. And we can reload. Okay, so it's like it loaded everything at once. What we can do to enhance the loading is to go to our different items, like the office. We are using texture here, so we can preload the texture. If we go down, we can do use texture and preload our texture. The path is textures baked.jpg. We can also go to the avatar and preload all our animations. We go on the bottom here and preload our 3 animations. Now go to the application, wrap the experience in a suspense component. So if it takes a long time to load, it won't display the experience and it won't start before you're ready to. What we can do is display it only if we started the experience. We'll do the same for the interface here. And we will go to the loading screen and we will delay the set started because we want to add some delay to show the menu to load completely before showing the experience. So if progress equal to 100, we will set timeout before calling set started. And the second parameter is the time we wait, 500 milliseconds. Now if we reload, it waits before doing it. But the animation is a bit too harsh about the position of the office here. If we go to the experience, we can go on the group. Here it's the character, but if we go on the office, we can also add a transition based on duration to make it smoother, maybe 0.8. Now, if we reload, it smoothly go down and it's not that abrupt jump. Now, the last step, we will connect that contact form here. To do it quickly, easily, and for free, we will use FormSpree. So create your account, then you can create a new form. Me, I already have one here. Go to integration and switch to React. It requires that package. Let's install it. Yarn add FormSpree React. Nice, we can run again and hide it. How does it work? We will copy the code and implement it. We have interface here and we are already in the contact section. So we need that import. It's imported. Then we need handle submit and state. We add it. On submit of the form, we need to call handle submit. Let's do the same. Then what we have is validation error on some fields. So we can add it to our form too. Email input, we add validation error. On the message also. And they disable the button while it's submitting. Let's do it too. Okay, we can get rid of their example code. Okay, in their example, they had something like state.succeeded. Okay, if it's the case, what we will do is thank you for your message. We'll display it. We'll say text gray and center the text. Otherwise, we will display our form. Oh, by the way, we need it. We take the whole form. What have I done? Okay, go form here. It's because it's a ternary here. Okay, here like this. Okay, so now if it succeeded, it will display a message. Or we have the form available here. Let's try it first. If I call it without parameters, it says nothing. If we go into network, I have an error, can send an empty form. Maybe we can display that error message. I added validation error on message with the wrong prefix. Let's try without prefix if it's just display errors. Can send an empty form. So just need to clean the style of it. Class name, we'll use some margin top. Set the text in red. And now we have that error here. Okay, let's add this style if we have an error with the email too. Now let's try with real content. Submit. And we have thanks for your message. If I jump to my email, I can see that form submission. I think the pricing of FormSpree is like 50 submissions per month, which will be enough. Thank you for watching. Unless something else is asked a lot in the comments, it was the last episode of the 3D portfolio course. But don't worry, I'm thinking of a different portfolio tutorial in the coming month. I'm not sure what the next project I jump into, so surprise next week. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss it. In the meantime, if you want to continue becoming a true React Free Fiber legend, jump to the next tutorial available here.